Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
I'm chilling, bro. We got a week of basketball in the books, and we already got a lot to pull from, bro. I'm hyped to talk. We actually have seen real games on the floor TV.
Yes, we are super excited to talk some NBA ball. Bro, it might be a bit of a overreaction, but this could be one of the best seasons ever, just from this first week. I mean, we had some crazy games. We're gonna do some overreactions. A big trade finally happened this week, so there's gonna be a lot of stuff to talk about, and of course, we're gonna end it off with the drafting quiz. You know how it goes. But before we get into this episode, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our personal socials at TV on Basketball, at the Knockdown J. We've been doing the Daily NBA Picks Challenge. I've been doing my Raptors content. That's something the Daily NBA Picks Challenge, I don't want to really talk about it. It's kind of, there's still a whole month of November left before I have to do this if I have to do this forfeit. But it's not looking good for your boy so far. Hopefully I can bounce back pretty soon. But Jay is leading quite comfortably. So if you want to follow along with that, we're posting those every single day. So hopefully I can bounce back soon. But yeah, check out our personal socials for that. The links will be found in our description below. But in terms of the Hit Your Free Throws pod, remember to follow us on TikTok and Instagram for the best daily NBA content. You got power rankings. Jay's going to start some series soon. We're going to have some daily clips up of the podcast every single week. So if you want to follow us on those socials, you can find us. All the podcast clips, all the series will be found at the Hit Your Free Throws TikTok and Instagram. If you're watching us on YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the subscription and hit the subscribe button so you will not miss an episode. And if you're listening on any of the podcast networks, Spotify or Apple, remember to show love in any way possible. Review, subscribe. We really do appreciate all your support. Jay, are you ready to get into this?
Bro, I'm so hype.
We're gonna get to the floor very shortly, and this is kind of one of those flex topics because this just happened very recently. James Harden is finally traded away from the Philadelphia 76ers. Basically, the day after he came back to the team, was chopping up with PJ Tucker on the bench. He got shipped out alongside PJ Tucker the day after. And he gets his wish. He gets to go to the LA Clippers in exchange for Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum, some random center who ended up getting traded to the Sacramento Kings right after, and a bunch of picks. I believe there was one person also as a part of the trade.
The Oklahoma City Thunder. I think they tagged in as well.
They tagged in as part of like a pick swap or something. Of course, the Thunder are there with a pick swap. You know how it goes. But Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. This James Harden trade, is this gonna work in LA? I mean, this is technically probably one of the best big threes on paper. Him, Paul George, Kawhi. How do you feel about this trade?
Hey man, I feel pretty confident about the LA Clippers right now. This was a team that I was a little worried about when you talk about how they come into the season always worrying about their injury-prone players, right? But James Harden is not really a guy that tends to miss games due to injury pretty frequently. Now you pair him back up with Brody because we can't forget that Russell Westbrook is still on the team as well. These are two guys that are really durable, and it kind of feeds into that point that once upon a time the Lakers fed off with Russ, which was, hey, if LeBron James can't play, at least you have a guy in Russell Westbrook who's pretty much going to play anywhere between 75 to 80 games a year, it feels like. Well, James Harden falls into a similar boat as that. So now you've got a really solid guard tandem with him being James next to Russell Westbrook. Again, two guys that already have a lot of synergy. And now you pair him with two of the better wings in the league. It's a good starting group to work with. Now they got to, figure out the edges.
100%. I like the roster. And honestly, this trade, after looking at the depth chart, it's not as bad as I thought. You still got, of course, Westbrook and James Harden. I'm not sure if that's really going to be their starting backcourt. Who knows? Because they also got PJ Tucker in this deal. Maybe they want to start him as well. But he's got Paul George. You got Kawhi Leonard. Then you got Vicha Zubac at the center, and you have Mason Plumlee as a backup. The only problem is their bench is really small. You got Bones Highland. You got Terrence Mann when he comes back from injury. And then you have to start Norman Powell at the 3. So that's going to be a little bit tough. Maybe you have PJ Tucker coming to the bench too, so maybe that counteracts that. But at the end of the day, I mean, this Clippers team didn't have to give up Norman Powell, didn't have to give up Terrence Mann. So, I mean, you got rid of all your wing depth, which is absolutely horrible. But at the end of the day, you got James Harden, who's going to be there, and it's more probably insurance for the regular season, maybe into the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, you have someone who led the league in assists last year, was a 20-point per game scorer, had two 40-point games in the NBA playoffs. So this guy is far from being a scrub. So he's going to get his opportunity with the Clippers. Whether it works or not, it's hard. At this point, with the Clippers, you just have to be like, okay, what's next for them? We don't care what happens now. Can they make it and work in the playoffs? And at this point, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I know that James Harden's gonna help that out.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that you really have to ask the question for is how is he going to fit next to a lot of the other on-ball guys that they already have? For example, Kawhi Leonard, he looks rejuvenated this year, and he's been kind of killing. But we can't sleep on Paul George. Paul George has been a different kind of demon this year so far.
By the way, 20 points in that last game versus the Lakers in the fourth quarter. This guy, before he fouled out, absolutely took over that game.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you look at the way Paul George is playing this year, he looks really unhinged. He looks locked in on both sides of the ball. Had a really crazy outing against the San Antonio Spurs. We had 5 steals. Like, he's clearly dialed in. So I think defensively, when you look at him and Kawhi Leonard paired behind guys like James Harden and Russell Westbrook, you've got a lot to be thankful for as a James Harden fan, because now you don't have to see him get grilled on defense as badly anymore because he has a support system behind him. But offensively, the question now is, one of the bigger ones is, like, do you start the backcourt of Russell Westbrook and James Harden next to each other, or are one of those guys going to be delegated as a lead bench guy to be able to get that bench kind of jump started, because it's already small. But now on top of that, we got to be able to get some instant offense out of it if small ball is going to be the route. So the question is going to be, how does Ty Lue decide to lean into this? But he's got to be grinning from ear to ear right now, because at bare minimum, if his 2 All-Stars go down, which they have this kind of thing of doing when we talk about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, if his 2 main All-Star wings go down, we're talking about 2 All-Star former MVP caliber guys in the backcourt that have a history of being durable as the backdrop. That's got to be something that at least has to make Ty Lue feel a lot better about this season. And that's huge for him, because Ty Lue being dialed in for the regular season is almost as important as the guys on the floor, because I think Ty Lue is going to be one of the biggest difference makers, not just for when they get to the postseason, but making a deep run.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I don't know what the lineup would look like, even if like Westbrook, or if Westbrook does come off the bench. Again, they're just super small. I don't think they want to go deep into the bag of starting to use someone like a Diabate or an Amir Coffey consistently in their rotation. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think on the Clippers side of things, the fact he didn't have to give up that much, I think it's good for, at least for the lineup they have right now, and they're able to get a potential All-NBA player in James Harden for sure. It's only for a year, but at the same time, they're able to bring him in. And you know that in terms of luxury tax, Steve Ballmer doesn't care. He's freaking rich as hell. He doesn't mind paying that. But moving on to the 76ers side of things, this whole thing was bleeding into the regular season, and I think they want to make this trade really quickly. How do you feel about the 76ers kind of return on this? I mean, I didn't mention this at the top. They also got KJ Martin, who's probably going to be the best player coming out of that trade. But let me know, like, what do you think about the 76ers return?
I think the 76ers understood that the main thing, number one, was that giving the keys to Tyrese Maxey is the way moving forward, right? He's already averaging 30-plus points per game through the first couple of games of the season. Clearly has shown that he has a grasp of the offense. And this is the definition of being given an opportunity can do for guys who have been kind of delegated to more of a role player role. And that's where Maxey has always been. He's always kind of found himself through the first couple of seasons of his career as the third fiddle at best, right, offensively. But now he's been given the keys to the car, and he's been able to play to that kind of level where you got to tell yourself, like, yo, we might be able to really ride with him as the lead dog in the backcourt. The other part of it, though, is just vibes, bro. You got to understand this. In the city of brotherly love, outside of the Philadelphia Eagles being really good, the Philly situation is looking a little dicey, because if you guys didn't know, that the World Series is also over and the Phillies didn't win. But that's not the point. That's not the point. It's a basketball podcast. All I'm saying is, the Philadelphia 76ers, they need good vibes, man. You got to think about it. You got a guy in Joel Embiid who continuously keeps getting listed as an interesting candidate for the trade block to teams like the New York Knicks and stuff, right? And it's because of this ideology that the team is just not mentally or emotionally structured in a way that can make a reigning MVP feel like he wants to stick around. Guys like Maxey playing this well empowers you in a way that makes you feel a little bit better about your situation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, let's be honest. I think with Maxey playing well, Daryl Morey had some leeway as to like how much time he could trade James Harden, because you're like, okay, the 76ers are doing well. Maybe you don't have to rush into it. Maybe you can wait till December 15th when more guys get available for trades. But I think they realize that they have something here. This Embiid Maxey combo has been absolutely killer, both averaging 30 points a game. Embiid is averaging like 31, 10, and like 7. He has been insane. And Maxey's been just as insane, to be honest. With the addition of Kelly Oubre, who's averaging like almost 20 points a game, you kind of like the vibes from this team. So what do you do instead of getting in another star? Sure, you probably would have want better talent for sure coming back in the trade, but you got KJ Martin, you got Covington, you got Nicholas Batum. A lot of guys you could move around different positions. They can guard forwards. They can guard, certain guards in the league. Even some of them, like a Robert Covington or Tobias Harris, wouldn't mind guarding, some fives in the league. It's more versatility. It lets the opportunities for Maxey and Embiid stay the same. And honestly, if anyone's going to benefit the most from this, it's going to be freaking Tobias Harris. Now he knows when his shots are coming. He has another year left on his deal. Of course, everyone talks about that gargantuan contract he has, but he's going to finally be in the third person role, which he hasn't been for a while, because back then he had to play with Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons. Then Tyrese Maxey became good enough to become a second, third option. He finally is solidifying himself as a third option. I think that's going to help him a lot. And the emergence of Kelly Oubre, man. One of the best pickups in this offseason so far, averaging 19 a game. He's been really good for the 76ers. They're currently 2-1 in the East in the standings right now. I'm liking their team. Obviously, you wouldn't want to get more, but you want to keep the vibes up. And I think having James Harden around the team gets rid of those vibes, like you mentioned. So I do like this trade, and I think that it had to be done. But I think the 76ers are comfortable now with their team going forward. And who knows? Another trade might happen.
I'm honestly hyped for the 76ers because I also feel like one of the other things that they're forming with this trade is a defensive identity. I think they just are deciding to lean into it. Look, we know that Embiid can get 30 plus a game. We now see that Tyrese Maxey, when unleashed, can be a guy that can get his buckets. We know Kelly Oubre, when he touches the ball, it's going up, right? But at the same time, look at what Kelly Oubre provides as a wing on the defensive end. Look at what Robert Covington provides as a 3-and-D wing. Same thing with Nicholas Batum, who can also act as an on-ball handler that can help with initiating the offense, either as a starter or coming off the bench, right? You look at all this versatility, they give themselves a real opportunity to not just be versatile, but also to be more physical defensively. Now you give Embiid real defensive personnel around him that cooperates in a way that also can be effective when you go to the other side of the floor and got to go play offense. Because now you have the two-man game of Tyrese, but you got shooters around you. But then when you flip the side and you have to go play defense, you've got 3 or 4 guys that can go out on the wing and guard up and really make things uncomfortable. I think they're in a really good space. Plus, sleeper here, Robert Covington returns back to Philly. I think he sneakily has one of his better years in recent memory, which might not be a high bar to clear because it feels like he hasn't really played much over the last couple of seasons, or at least we don't feel his impact as much as we felt, in his earlier years with Philly and maybe even with Houston to an extent. But I think his return to Philly this go around in a more refined role, I think he's going to have one of his better years. If not maybe statistically, I think at least in terms of shooting the ball. Yeah,
100%. Daryl Morey got some picks in this trade. 2 first-round picks, a pick swap, a lot of second-round picks. Do you think he ends it here? Do you think there's another trade coming?
Nah, man. I think he got something else in the chamber. I feel like you can't stand pat, right? You just watched the Milwaukee Bucks grab one of the best guards in the NBA in the offseason. You watch the Boston Celtics go 2 for 2 on swinging on unconventional trades, something they don't normally do with Porzingis and Drew Holiday, something that we never really expected them to do because kind of, the quick pro of a team like the Celtics is to just internal development. We have 2 all-star wing guys in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We're going to just keep building on that. And they finally decided to tear it down a little bit and go for something, kind of go for broke in a way that we've seen them skip out on before. So if the Celtics have upgraded, Milwaukee has upgraded, and you look throughout the East and you've got teams like the Cavaliers where people are predicting for them to win 50 plus games in the regular season. We don't know if that's a stretch or not, but I'm just saying that's how people feel about them in terms of the regular season alone. You can't get rid of an all-star and say, okay, we're better. Like, yes, you
Boy,
are in theory because of like vibes and different things like
and he
that.
wasn't even playing. He wasn't playing either.
Of course, and that's the other thing that serves its purpose. But when you put it, when the rubber meets the road, when we get to the postseason, you're not better for this.
Yes.
You simply have now improved your situation internally, but externally, in terms of what we're going to see on the floor, you don't stack up to Milwaukee or Boston with this trade. You step further away from it. All you've done is just empower Tyrese Maxey, which is good, but I don't think that necessarily makes you a better team by him having more control over the offense.
Yes. But Jay, I hate to do this to you, man, but there is a little team in Chicago there's a possibility. DeMar or Levine, or maybe both. Who knows? But there's definitely trades to be had. I think a trade like that could happen maybe closer to the trade deadline. They have some ammunition now with the picks, so they definitely have some things that teams near the bottom might want in terms of some draft capital. So I think that Daryl Morey's not done, and that he's not afraid to be aggressive. So be on the lookout. The 76ers are definitely not done with this.
I got a question for you, though, real quick, just because I don't want to let the Sixers kind of like pass on this one, because I know it's really cute to just talk about James Harden and all of this and kind of keep it pushing it. But like you mentioned that Daryl Morey might not be done. Like, is there anybody that you think for this team is somebody they should be going to target, though? Because I think they got a little bit of ammunition to work with. And Tyrese being this good at least lets them know this isn't a wash of a season because we got rid of James. This still can be a really competitive year with Joel playing as good as he is, and then on top of that, Tyrese stepping up into this bigger role. But we know they need a third guy. Who should the third guy be, though, in your opinion?
I mean, Zach LaVine sounds fine on paper, but I don't want him taking too many opportunities away from Maxey because of how good he is. I prefer DeMar for that team, to be honest, but be on the lookout. If the Raptors are not that good and not really pushing for a play-in spot come to trade deadline, Pascal Siakam might be available, man. Who knows?
Oh, man.
Who knows? They have some draft capital over there. They might trade some young talent. And honestly, looking right now, it might be Scotty Barnes' team at this point. So who knows? Maybe Siakam's the odd man out. Look for him to maybe be on the move if Philly's looking for that third star.
No, I think Siakam is a sneaky one, and I think that should really to be taken into consideration. I'm not gonna lie to you. The guy that I'm also looking at to a certain extent, I'm not gonna hold you, bro. You might want to start looking. It's gonna sound kind of silly, but I think you might want to start looking over at a team like Utah. I'm not gonna hold you. There's not a lot over there, but the Jordan Clarkson thing, it's always interesting every single season. I know he's not the star caliber player you think of when you think about a third guy, but that Philly bench, bench is lacking. Like, that's one of the biggest things that I think really hurts them overall, not just in terms of the James Harden trade, but we got to remember Philly was very inactive during the offseason, very inactive. So a guy like Jordan Clarkson can be really interesting overall for a team like this. I mean, another thing that could be you kind of mentioned it beforehand, man, but I'm not going to lie. The Zach LaVine thing still is kind of interesting to me. As a Bulls fan, I don't love it, but Zach LaVine, Bojan Bogdanovic, like somebody like that.
That could help. It could help a lot.
There's some stuff that could really kind of help them out. So it's going to be interesting to see who hits the block. We got to remember, this second apron thing opens up the floodgates in a way where if there's any year to be making some unbalanced trades, it's probably right now before everything starts to kick in.
100%. And remember too, if they even go to the offseason without making a trade, they have another max spot. So who knows what happens to come next offseason as well. Let's move on to the next topic. Let us know down below what you guys think of the James Harden trade. Who won, who lost. Me and Jay like it for both sides, but let us know also, who do you think Daryl Morey is targeting? Because he's definitely not done yet. All right. We are 1 week past the NBA season, just a little bit over a week. And a lot of teams have played basically 3 to 5 games. We're not going to make full judgments, but we're going to overreact a bit because there's been definitely some things to be look out for. Me and Jay have some overreactions, and we're going to talk about each of them over here. We're going to have 3 each. I'm going to throw you over to you, Jay, for the first one. Give me one of your biggest overreaction type takes for 1 week of the season so far.
TV, I'm going down your neck of the woods, and listen to me, man. Listen. I love Cade Cunningham. You know how I feel about Evan Mobley, man. You know I'm one of the biggest Franz Wagner fans in the world. But I think this man, Scotty Barnes, is proving he's the best player out of the 2021 draft,
I
man.
love
I ain't
to
gonna
hear
hold
it.
you, bro.
Love to hear
He
it.
has been on a mission this year. You can see that they've truly empowered him as more of an on-ball threat. The dude's averaging nearly 21 points a game. He's tied for second in rebounds per game in terms of, I think, at the guard position / forward position with 10 rebounds a game, averaging 5.5 assists. And the brother's already had like a 5-block game or something.
Yeah.
He's averaging like 2.5 blocks a game.
Leading
Like,
the league
my
in
boy
blocks
is,
this year. He's leading the league in blocks this year.
my dude is dialed in. But this is the thing we got to mainly put some emphasis on. 51.9% from the field. We can get a little bit better there. 42.9% from three on higher volume. That's key. It's not by much. It's not by much in terms of increase in the volume, but it's something that's going to be really important for this Raptors team. Because you got to remember, bro, we talked about this all offseason when we looked at the Raptors overall. This is a team that struggles when it comes to the three-point line. Shooting the three ball is one of the things that you guys, despite the fact that you operate as more of a small ball team, you guys don't step out on the perimeter much and shoot the three at a high clip. Scotty Barnes going from 2.9 3-point attempts per game up to 4. If this guy can get anywhere between 4 to 5 attempts beyond the arc, and he's going to shoot 42%, which would be considered as a career high by a long shot for him right now, dude, that is a lot for him moving forward. Now, offensively, I think the jump is very important, but I think the locked-in mentality he has defensively is going to be really important for this team because we know that's going to be the calling card of the Raptors, right? We're not looking at the Raptors and saying, yo, they're going to average 115 to 120 points per night. I mean, they could, but that's not necessarily what you expect out of this team. You're expecting this team to be super wing heavy. They're going to fly around. They're going to offensive rebound like a mug, unless DeAndre Ayton's on the other side of the floor. You know what I mean?
We're not talking about that game.
You know what I mean? And they're going to lock in. They're going to rebound heavy. They're going to play defense. They're going to be able to guard all 5 positions with a lot of different guys. And now, if you got a lead guy like Scotty Barnes who can play the wing, he can play point guard, he can be an off guard for you, it opens up a lot for you. Scotty Barnes is showing the versatility that we thought he had coming out of Florida State. It's finally really clicking, and it's feeling like that Rookie of the Year season might not be after all. That makes me feel good. I know that's got to feel good for you.
Oh, the Raptor fans are singing the praises of Darko, man. He is unlocking Scotty Barnes, and he has honestly consistently been our best player this year. The rebounding, the shooting. This guy, like, literally, he had Giannis Antetokounmpo on him last night. Step back three in his eyes, and he, like, just swished it, laced it completely. I've never seen this confidence in Scotty Barnes in the shot because I think that Nick Nurse had, like, the ball in Fred VanVleet's, like hands too much. That's why he was shooting so many shots under 40% from the field. It's a different system under Darko. The passing is crazy. Like, the Raptors are, like, I think, like, in like really good in terms of passing. I'm putting up the stats here. Almost top 10 in passing. In terms of 3-point attempts, they are, like, near the top of the league. This is the new Darko system. Even though we don't have the personnel really in terms of shooting, he attempts you to, like, he wants you to take those shots because those are the type of shots that you need to do in order to space the floor, in order to make space in the paint where the Raptors do thrive. So when you have that going on, the field goal, the 3-point percentage is going up. Scotty Barnes fits really well in the system. He can pass. Dennis Schroeder, who's been amazing this year as well. Shout out to him. He's finding guys in all their spots, and Scotty Barnes is just comfortable in his jump shot. What this makes me, like, interested though, now seeing him how he plays this year, and we talked about it. Pascal Siakam kind of being put into the wayside a little bit there. Scotty Barnes kind of taking over that number one role. Who knows what happens there? But at the end of the day, Scotty Barnes, him being able to be confident in his shot and also, like, put in, like, full effort defensively. He's gaining a post game this year, which I've seen him improve over these last few years. Basically doing the same minutes per game. We love it, and Raptor fans are super super excited for him this year. He's gonna be our main guy going forward. If we start to switch up the lineup, maybe Dennis comes off the bench. Maybe we can see some point Scotty in the future, but who knows? But Raptor fans are absolutely loving Scotty right now.
Yeah, man, that's definitely my first one. I was just looking at this class because, like I said, I love Franz, and I'm very big on Cade Cunningham having a bounce back year this year. And, you know, Evan Mobley's gonna do what he's gonna do. I want to see more from him offensively, but right now, I think the dude from the 2021 class right now, it has, like, again, maybe it's overreaction, but I think it's real. I think Scotty Barnes is looking like that dude from that class right now.
I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. Jay, I'm gonna give you my first one.
Let's go.
Anthony Davis will never be a number one guy. He can't. He can't. I can't see it. We talked about it last week. That minutes restriction from LeBron. We said let's wait how many games until this goes away, because if they start losing, this is gonna go away real quick. This went away after the first game. LeBron's minutes restriction went away after the first game. I'm gonna tell you right now. Here's his game log so far: 29 minutes the first game, fair. 35 minutes, 39 minutes, 32 minutes, and last night, although his best game of the season, 35, 12, and 7, 42 minutes, including in overtime. This is not going to work as AD is the number one guy. This is just not going to work. We've been waiting ever since that trade happened. We're like, even LeBron said it himself. This is not my team. This is Anthony Davis' team. It's been 4 years, Jay. It's been 4 years, and we have not seen it. What is it going to be Anthony Davis' team? At this point, I'm going to say it's never going to be Anthony Davis' team. He's too consistent. At his best, he's a top 5 player for sure. At his best, he's the best defender in the league. But he disappears way too much as a superstar. We know his talent is there, but when it comes to him being a number one guy, I just see him disappearing a lot. We saw it in the first game of the season, like 15 points in the first quarter, 2 points the rest of the way. Like, this is just unacceptable. And you see the minute that LeBron drops his minutes restriction, Anthony Davis plays well. He just can't be a number one guy. He just can't. It's fine to say he's like one of the best number twos in the league for sure. But him being the number one on the Lakers, that felt like a pipe dream before. I think that we should just get rid of that narrative altogether.
Man, I can't even hate on the idea of abandoning the Anthony Davis ship this early in the year, because like you mentioned before, and we literally talked about this on the podcast. You asked me, how long does LeBron James minute restriction really last? I told you, I don't think it makes it to Christmas. We didn't even make it to Thanksgiving, bro. Like, let's keep it a beat.
Right.
Come on, man. So you tell yourself, in that situation, how valuable really are they moving forward if Anthony Davis can't be the lead man, right? And look, there was all this hype offseason of the Austin Reeves All-Star year, right? All of this stuff like that. Dude, when you really come back to earth and make it make sense, that guy still only is most serviceable as a third option on this kind of team. And trying to over-empower a guy like Austin Reeves is putting him in a position that's beyond what his overall skill set is. FIBA is a different animal. And don't get me wrong, he performed really well out there. But in this space, next to those players, he has a specific role. And here's another thing we got to keep it a full stack on. None of us, maybe we're extremely low on the Lakers, but I think all of us were way too high on the acquisition of Gabe Vincent. And that's been more than validated through the early portion of the season. Does Gabe Vincent have a double-digit performance yet?
Oh no, he hasn't, and he also already got injured.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I mean. That only hurt. Well, obviously that hurts the viability of it even more. But what I'm saying is, in the time frame that he was on the floor, pretty much non-existent. This was the thing that was going to be the issue when you talked about the Miami guys. Right now, Max Strus, on the other hand, has actually been performing relatively well. I think he came out the gate, and I think he led the league in threes made with like 7, like out the gate. So there's two sides to this coin, but that's the thing about coming out that Miami Heat system. You have some guys that come out of it and prove that they can really hoop, and then you have other guys that almost show that they're kind of a product of the system. I think Gabe Vincent is one of those guys that kind of just had himself a year. And even last year, let's be honest, it wasn't even a year, bro. You just put yourself together a really strong postseason to get paid. But even during the regular season, we kept asking ourselves, can Miami really be viable in the postseason if these guys are playing like this? And then they told us, well, if we make the playoffs, we won't play like this. And then they went on their run. So, I mean, Gabe Vincent, overrated. Anthony Davis, I think that he's in that lane where he's becoming – it's weird to call him overrated, but I think he's overrated if you view him as a guy who eventually is supposed to take it or has already been set to take the keys for this team. And if LeBron has to be the best player on the squad again, bro, the ceiling for this team is not high. The ceiling is not that high for this squad, bro.
You're asking a lot of a 38 LeBron, who's turning 39 in just 2 months. Like, you're asking way too much out of it. And we've been waiting for Anthony Davis to be the number one, man. We know that he has the ability to, but the inconsistency is just hurting him too much. His overall health, his durabilities are hurting him too much. We just have to get rid of this like narrative. We have to kind of just give up on it. He's just not going to be a number one guy. He doesn't have really the personality for it. He showed that he can't really do it on a consistent basis. He's great, but he just can't be a number one guy. And that's fine, but it's not the guy that the Lakers were hoping is going to be taking them into the future.
I'm worried about the Lakers, bro.
Hey, they're 3-2, but again, LeBron has to average like 35 minutes a game in order to do it. I don't know if this is going to be sustainable. Jay, what's your second overreaction?
My second overreaction is that the Dallas Mavericks got them arguably the biggest steal of the NBA draft this past year with Derek Lively, bro. I was hype about Derek Lively ending up on a team where he could be kind of empowered as potentially the starting center. And look, you hate to give a guy like you hate to give a rookie so much like strife their rookie year in terms of needing to be an effective player on a championship caliber team, right? But Derek Lively has more than stood up to the challenge so far. He came out the gate and had 15-10 in their opening night matchup against Wemby and them. It was 16-10. Yeah. And he played relatively well. He's already averaging near a steal a game, averaging a block a game, and he's averaging almost a double-double, 8.5 points and 7.8 rebounds per game. But most importantly, and this is going to be one of those things that's super important for a team like Dallas, big time play finisher. In that opening game, he had 2 putback dunks that were Sports Center top 10 highlight worthy. And the dude is leading the league in field goal percentage at nearly 79% shooting from the floor. If he can be a guy who can be a garbage cleaner around the glass, be an effective rebounder, and even be a semblance of a big-time rim defender for this team, they've got a lot to work with. Now, let's be real. Dallas is I think second in offense in terms of overall offensive rating, and they might be a top scoring team in the NBA as well. But I also think they're teetering around bottom 10 in defensive efficiency as well. Yeah. I think they're 19th or something like that, 18th, 19th. So they're hanging around that bottom portion of the league. Derek Lively and Grant Williams, that combo right there is going to be really important. This team desperately still needs one more wing player, one more 3-and-D wing. Shout out to Brooklyn. You might want to get Dorian Finney-Smith back. We'll see what happens. Yeah. What I'm saying is they got to go after one more 3-and-D wing to really set the tone. But Derek Lively in the middle, he might be their best option at the big man spot, and that's saying a lot for a 19-year-old.
He says, "Do you remember me at the draft? He's going to be very quickly their best big man option." And Jay, I listened to this in the podcast. Guess who he's training with? Former Dallas Maverick center. It's a little trivia over here, but guess who he's training with on a 1-to-1 basis? This guy won a championship.
Oh, Tyson Chandler, right?
Chandler. Yeah. That's exactly what the Mavs have been missing for years. And look. It's not like Derek Lively is a complete world changer. It's he's not going to be all-worldly or whatever. But listening to Dallas Mavericks fans who have been dreading Dwight Powell at center for almost a decade. Maxi Kleber has been and Maxi Kleber as well. They're 2 top centers. Getting someone that can just go up and get a lob, someone who can go up and clean up the glass. They haven't had that in almost a decade. Him working with Tyson Chandler makes the absolute sense. Next thing you know, you're gonna see some, volleyball tap rebounds at the fourth quarter for sure. Yeah. But yeah, Derek Lively, he just provides exactly what the Mavs need. Someone to be a lob threat in the center, someone who is gonna be able to get up, who's gonna be able to run. You know what's changing with Dallas this year as well? Their pace. They're in the top half of the league in pace, and that's crazy for a Luka team because they're usually bottom 5. Right. So you could see that the way that they're already changing their system, the way that Derek Lively is already showing that he's a force in the middle, him in the Dallas Mavericks, out of all the picks that was made, that seemed to be the perfect fit. And I'm glad he's getting the opportunities early because come playoff time, they're going to have to face some freaking juggernauts in the West. Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis. Sure, he's not going to be as strong as those guys, but they need bodies. It's better than having them match up with Dwight Powell or Maxi Kleber. So he's probably the best shot you got. They're undefeated right now. Him being just even a presence in the middle. He doesn't have to play 30 minutes a night, but as long as he's a presence in the middle, him getting those dunks, running the floor, that's all he needs to do. And I think the Dallas Mavericks got that. I think they're really happy with that acquisition.
I think the other thing, too, is you can tell that Luka's playing in a way where he understands he's got a squad this year, bro. I think that's another thing that really opens up the field for him. In the opening game against the San Antonio Spurs, he had a big-time 3 in the closing stretches. And what was the thing he kept telling the camera? I'm here. This is with Victor Wembanyama on the other side of the floor, the next it kid, right? We've been talking about Luka Doncic as being the wonder boy of the NBA for the better part of the last 2 to 3 years now. Victor Wembanyama pulled up on the scene, and it felt like all of that it kid, Slovenian, supernatural individual player that we were talking about with Luka, it felt like the rust was coming off. Remember, we were talking about the NBA survey even. And we talked about how Luka was getting anywhere between 60 and 70% of the MVP candidate votes. And this year, he ended up with only 4%. Yeah. Right? It seemed like the luster around the kid was starting to finally fall off after the first couple of seasons where everybody was riding that wave. You can see that he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, and it only further enables him to kind of ball out because now he has a squad that really can help him back it up. Yeah, it can really back it up. Kyrie Irving has been a good second fiddle to him on this team. Grant Williams has came out and done exactly what he needs to do. And look, Tim Hardaway Jr. as the second leading scorer on the team.
He's been good. He's been really good.
We might have a sneaky revival year from TH. So that's something else to keep an eye on.
Man, this Dallas Mavericks team, I know it's super early, and it's not like they've been facing, crazy talent. They ended up beating the Bulls. Sorry about that. The Grizzlies without Ja, the Nets, and the Spurs. It's not like crazy competition, but they look good, man. And that offense looks absolutely lethal. And if Luka's hitting his threes, man, have you seen he's averaging like 43% from three? Like that is scary.
He's also shooting. I think he's shooting like 11 or 12 of them a game or something like that.
That's scary.
He's getting them up there. And if he's going to be that confident shooting them, and some of these are from range, like from the parking lot, if he's going to start getting that level of comfortability from beyond the arc, this is the thing Skip Bayless kept drudging him about for the first couple of years of his career. He's a bad three-point shooter. If he's going to be in the 40s or even the high 38, 39s, that's a different type of MVP caliber season we got on the books for Luka Doncic. And if Luka is an MVP candidate this year, which he's always in the running, but if he's a real MVP candidate this year, that means the Dallas Mavericks are going places.
They are going places. Luka just needs a squad, man, and this feels like the year that's actually happening. Love the Derek Lively choice because that was going to be one of my overreactions. I honestly believe he's going to be like a top 3 rookie in this draft class just because of how long his career is going to be and how effective he's going to be at that role. Here's my next overreaction, though. I think the Boston Celtics are going to win 65-plus games, man. This team
look good.
This team looks good, and we talked about this like in the preseason. I talked about it in the pod. They basically have a starting 6. Like you can interchange like Al Horford for Porzingis. You can put him in instead of Derek White. Maybe like move everyone down. But man, they have so many options. And the fact that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can still average like their 25-plus points per game. You have Porzingis absolutely killing it from the center position. Drew Holiday being like one of the best. Like seeing his upgrade from Marcus Smart to Drew Holiday is so clear, and you could just tell that this Boston Celtics team is just absolutely loving it. All these guys are absolutely playing at their very best, and you still got someone like Derek White who's like averaging 16 points a game. Like this is a scary bunch. Then you still got those little people on the outside, like the Sam Housers, the Delano Bantons. I think that as long as this 6 guys stay healthy, and they all have a track record of staying healthy for a good. I mean, maybe except for Kristaps Porzingis, but besides him, like all these guys are known to be like pretty like solid throughout the whole season. They're gonna win a bunch of games because if you take away even one of those two of those options, Drew Holiday's an option. Derek White can kill you. I mean, he had a 27-point game this year. Porzingis had a 30-plus point game. This Celtics team look like they've finally arrived, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna stop messing around. This is the year we're really gonna go for it, and we're really gonna really go for that championship. I think that this team looks different, and the star talent is just fitting so well right now. There's a reason they're 4-0. This team looks unstoppable. I think they've had like 2 like absolutely big blowouts. They defeated the Pacers yesterday by like 50 something. Man, the Celtics team looks good, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you look across the board, too, for what the Celtics are doing, the best overall best team in terms of points per game at 127. They're top 10 in terms of opponents' points allowed. Middle of the pack in terms of pace, but they're a team that tends to ISO a lot. So actually being top half is actually pretty good for them. But they have the best offensive rating in the league, and they're a top 10 defensive rated team in the NBA. We know that this is a team that's going to end the year off as a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. And usually that's a formula for a very effective season and a pretty deep postseason run.
For real.
These are things that I think we can definitely look forward to when it comes to the Boston Celtics. I think the biggest question for them right now is really just going to be how that depth that plays itself out throughout the season. Because like you said beforehand, I definitely agree with you that they have a really strong starting 6 moving with them. But as we've mentioned plenty of times, I mean, look at it. Their entire starting 5, basically outside of, depending on how you view Hal Horford, everybody's averaging double figures. But the next highest guy in terms of points per game is Sam Hauser off the bench with 7 points per game, dude. Like, this is one of those things where I'm not saying they can't be an effective squad if any of those guys go down, because they've clearly got more than enough in the pecking order. But this team gets really light after these guys come off the floor. So, I mean, even when you look at it, let's put something in the context on itself. 33 minutes, 33 and a half minutes for Jason Tatum, 32 minutes for Jaylen Brown, almost 31 minutes for Jrue Holiday, almost 30 minutes for Kristaps Porzingis, almost 30 minutes for Derek White. And then here's the drop off, all the way down to 19 minutes per game for Al Horford, 18 for Peyton Pritchard, 17 for Sam Hauser. Like, that's your initial 8 that's running. That's a lot of minutes into that starting 5. You got to wonder if that's going to end up mattering when we get later into the regular season, where we're going to be playing for position and every game is going to become a lot more important.
Yeah, I mean, they did make some signings like in the offseason. Svi Mikhailuk, O'Shea Brissett. I think that they're going to be guys that when, like, you know, the rest days come up, if there's like many like injuries here and there, I think their guys can step up because we've seen them in different scenarios. I mean, we talk about Svi and his time with the Raptors, with the Knicks, O'Shea Brissett with the Indiana Pacers. We've seen these guys. Even Lamar Stevens with the Cavs, he had some pretty big games for them in the last couple of seasons as well. I think they have guys that are potentially there, but I think that you want to like run with this top 6, and you want to run far with them. They haven't even had to play a lot of minutes because they're freaking blowing teams out left, right, and center. So that's good to see. That's good to see from them. I just think that as long as like even like 5 of those 6 guys in that starting lineup is like healthy, they're gonna win a bunch of games because you just have to pick your poison, and you really like any day that these guys are gonna be able to produce, and you still got some sneaky guys on the bench there that could pop off if they get given the opportunity.
Yeah, I think I can see the hype with the Celtics, bro. I know that we thought they were going to be good, but so far, man, they are proving to definitely be like one of the better teams, if not the best team in the NBA right now. They got some competition at the top. Don't get me wrong. Dallas is playing well. Denver is obviously playing really good as well. Like, there's a lot to like. But Boston, if they're not the best team right now, they're clearly looking like one of the most complete squads, at least between their top 6 to 7.
100%. Jay, your final overreaction. What do you got?
My final overreaction, bro, might not even be one. The Miami Heat are who we thought they were, TV. Yeah. I said in the offseason, I thought that I thought that this was a team that was finally going to face the music and fall off. We've seen the Miami Heat culture overbear the fact that, honestly, from a talent perspective, let's be real, they really haven't been good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this year, finally getting it validated that maybe this team is not as good as we think they are, despite what Heat culture shows us. They're 3rd worst in points per game, 15th in opponents' points per game, bottom 5, bottom 6 in offense, and they're a bottom half of the league team defensively. This is a team that at least we thought from a defensive standpoint would be their calling card to get them some wins. But they're the worst team in the Eastern Conference record-wise, and they're honestly the least intimidating team besides maybe the Washington Wizards whenever you're playing up against somebody on a night-to-night basis right now. Let's also get under the fact that it seems like the only guy that's playing with any real urgency is the guy that's been on the trade block all summer. That's Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about the Miami Heat. They're a team that I definitely had my doubts about going into the season. Them having this really rough start to the year is already kind of validating some of those issues. It's going to be interesting to see how they play the rest of the year out. We always see this team pull something out of their hat, like midway through the season around the trade deadline, where they just start to make some noise out of nowhere. But if this gets too bad early on, it's not going to be easy to recover. Not when Indiana's having a good year. Not when Detroit looks like they're going to be a really viable defense. Not when Orlando looks like they're playing relatively well. It's not going to be easy to just coast through the East and finish as a top 8 team the way the Miami Heat have gotten away with in years past.
Yeah. Look, man, I'm not worried about this team. They last year freaking what made me like forget about everything. Like, whatever we look into the regular season with the Miami Heat, I am not putting any stock. After what happened last season, I am like, they lost their first freaking playing game. I thought that was completely over. But no, The Miami Heat, they showed us last year they were able to do it. Jimmy Butler, look, he's playing really bad right now. I don't see he's not having a great year. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero have been their best players by far on this team. They're definitely missing the depth of players like Max Strus, like Gabe Vincent as well. I just after last year, as much as I want to say, the Miami Heat, they're falling off. This might not be the year. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it until I see it. If they don't make it out of the play-in tournament, fair. It's like this was a horrible year for the Miami Heat. But as long as they're even in that 9th spot, they get a chance to get into the play-in tournament. I can't just count them out. I can't.
I mean, I can't blame you. I think there's just a couple of red flags that obviously stick out. Kyle Lowry and Josh Richardson only combining for a combined 11 points per game.
They've been horrible.
For the two of them, Caleb Martin has fell completely back to earth and probably through the core itself. The man's averaging 2 points a game. Kevin Love is probably on the back 9 overall, to the point that I think you can make an argument that behind Bam Adebayo, Haywood Highsmith might be their next better big. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know, bro. It's not looking good.
It isn't looking good.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you for keeping the faith. But this is one of those seasons where I just who do you even point to as having the redemption of a year to get them back on track, right? We saw it with Max Strus. We saw it with Gabe Vincent. We saw it for a brief stretch when Victor Oladipo was on the floor. There was things where you had little nuggets of information to say, dang, maybe the Miami Heat can claw their way back into this. So, I mean, it's very early. The sample size is not great, but I don't even know what player to go to say this will be the guy that helps unlock the back half of the year for the Heat.
I don't know, but they find them. That's all I know about the Miami Heat. They just end up finding these guys, man. Things will get better. The only thing I have again, there's a big worry with this. They've only won one game, and they've only won it by 1 point. They almost blew a 20-plus point lead to the Detroit Pistons. They lost badly to the Timberwolves. They gave up a big lead to the Nets the other day. So again, not looking good. But in terms of my faith in the Miami Heat, that is not changing until I see them officially out of the playoffs. I am not changing that. All right, Jay. This hurts me to say this was my last overreaction. I don't think Jalen Green is it, man. I know it's early. We talked about the 2021 draft class earlier, but I am losing slowly more faith in Jalen Green to be a top guard in this league, because so far this year, 19 points a game is solid, under 40% from 3, under 35% from 3, 39% from the field. He's had his moments, but at this point, whenever I look at a Rockets game, the best players I see are either Dylan Brooks or Alperen Şengün. That's Jalen Green is supposed to benefit. I know it's early. He really should be benefiting from these opportunities, but I just can't see him being an efficient guy and being able for him to stay in the starting lineup consistently. Yes, he's super athletic. He can develop a defensive game. I just think look, Rockets fans say this too. He's a highlight reel machine. He gets bouncy. He can score buckets in a hurry. But in terms of him being that lead guard for a playoff team going forward, I had a lot of hope for him, but I'm slowly losing faith. Even in this sort of scenario, being outplayed by Alperen Şengün. I mean, Jabari Smith is close to that for me too, and there's only his second season. He's already really disappointing me as well. But instead of Jalen Green, slowly but surely, he's I'm losing more and more faith in him, and I'm I just don't know if he can be a starting long-term guard in this league.
I think my biggest worry with Jalen Green right now is just the fact that I think he's fallen down the pecking order on a team that clearly, we've had this conversation plenty of times before. They've just got a lot of young talent on there, and now that they're also being incentivized to win, now you bring in guys like Fred VanVleet, you bring in guys like Dylan Brooks, and it only further pushes him down the totem pole in terms of what his role actually is. And look, man, one of the opening games of the season, we saw the revival of a dude we both kind of wrote off for a second, and Jonathan Isaac, who clearly was not having any of that athleticism talk when it came to Jalen Green, because Jalen Green tried to challenge him at the rim twice, challenged him at the rim 2 times, and it did not go well either time, bro. This is a dude who I think I'm gonna keep it a bean with you. I think that Jalen Green is gonna be still considered one of the more bouncy players in the NBA, but I think there's also a reality check that we might have to have that maybe the league is caught up to his athletic stature. There's some guys who just kind of outplay that, right? We've seen guys like the Zach LaVines, like an Anthony Edwards, who I think can kind of play above their athleticism in a way where it's not just their calling card, but it's a real element that just kind of raises their game. There might be a world where Jalen Green is more of a Terrence Ross-esque athlete. And that's not necessarily a net negative, but it puts a real ceiling on what his all-star and even superstar potential can look like moving forward if he's just a really bouncy guy that can give you a highlight play every now and then, but doesn't really service you as an efficient guard in the backcourt for a team that is really playing to now win games.
Yeah. I still like, again, giving some more time. You see people in his draft class absolutely popping off. Evan Mobley not as much, but you know like how good he could be. He could still be a very good defensive player. But Scotty Barnes, Kate Cunningham, you can even add like Franz Wagner to the mix. I feel like he's just like not just one step, but just even a couple steps below that type of caliber player, just in terms of being reliable on a night-to-night basis. So, I mean, Jalen Green still has time. Again, still early in the season, but so far from what I'm seeing, less and less hope on him, especially with the Rockets not looking good whatsoever as well. Few other teams I just want to shout out before we move on to the next topic. The Golden State Warriors, I'm really excited about them going forward. I think that the Chris Paul coming off the bench is really nice. The Denver Nuggets, you don't have to worry about. The Pelicans, if they can stay healthy, man. Him and like Zion and that team could be really good. Is there any other like kind of teams that you want to shout out before we move on?
I think, obviously, in a net negative way, my Chicago Bulls have clearly gotten a head start on the pulling of my hair in terms of getting me kicked out of this league, in terms of being interested in them. I am already ripping hair out as we speak, watching this team. They're yanking everybody's chain, and we're just kind of wondering at this point, like, whether or not this team is going to maintain. San Antonio Spurs, I think, are going to be a lot better than we gave them credit for. Victor Wembanyama is clearly that guy, but I think this team is also pretty locked in with their jumbo lineup where they've got like Jeremy Sohan playing on the ball and stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, at the end of the day, I think they also know that this team is best when Trey Jones is running because he is the, more traditional point guard. San Antonio is going to be really good. And then the Detroit Pistons, bro. Dude, they're
good. They look solid.
They have a chance. They have a chance to be like a breakout team this year because I really like Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren in the front court as a pairing that could do some real interesting damage, not just as rebounders, but defensively too.
Yeah, and Kate Cunningham, he's back this year, and he looks pretty damn good as their point guard. I think he's showing his number one status pretty well. I think that this could be a nice bounce back year after that injury from last season. But yeah, any other overreactions, let us know down below. Any thoughts on what we talked about as well. You can drop it there or even in the Instagram comments or TikTok. Jay, time to move on to the next segment of the show. We have reached the final two. And of course, we're starting off with the draft. And because we're talking the start of the NBA season, it's got me thinking about some of the one-season wonders that we had around the league. I don't know what we're going to have for any of these guys this year. Maybe we might see some guy absolutely pop off and kind of fall off the face of the earth. Who knows? But I'm thinking about a lot of them, especially from like the past years. So we decided to do this draft. Me and Jay are going to be trying to draft players who are considered maybe 1 season or 2 season wonders. If you want some examples of this, maybe look back to Aaron Brooks when he won Most Improved Player. Maybe look at when Larry Sanders was considered one of the best defensive centers in the league in like the early 2010s. They had like a 1 or 2 year stretch, even a playoff run where they were like super, super hyped up and completely fell off the face of the earth. We're going to be drafting those type of players and trying to create the best 1 season wonder teams that we can. Jay, how do you feel about this draft?
Man, when I saw this draft idea in the chat, I was like, dude, this is going to be one of the more interesting ones because there are not going to be all-stars in this team. There are not going to be any all-stars. And my real NBA heads are going to be the ones that gravitate towards this kind of draft because this is going to be using the old noggin to be in a draft correctly because a lot of these one-season wonders, a lot of them also come from, depending on how you view it, a lot of these players come from the pre-3-point era. So it's going to be interesting factoring things like spacing and things like that out the way as well.
100%. So, you know how this draft goes? Jay gets the first pick. I get the next two. Then we're going to continue with Serpentine until the end of the draft. So, Jay, first overall pick. Who are you going to go with for the one season wonders?
Oh man, the guy I've been looking at him this entire time as definitely the number one overall pick of this draft. The guy who almost represents this to an extent to me. I feel like it has to be. I want to make sure I read his stats out as well. I got to go with 2013, 2014. Michael Carter Williams. Like I think that's definitely the guy for me. He was supposed to be one of the initial like draftees at the guard position to kind of lead this charge in terms of, you know, the big guard, right? He averaged 16.7 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists as a member of like that was the ever so tanking 76ers, the trust the process originators. And this guy, I think, like I said, coming out of Syracuse, kind of considered as like a different breed of guard. Like he was falling into that lane of like, you know, the big guard era. So I'm gonna go with him as one of them. Rookie of the year, and they never really got any respect after that.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember that first game versus the Miami Heat where he absolutely like went off, hit threes, 6 steals as well. He's a definition of a one season wonder, and there might be someone else in this draft that might follow that same pattern if we go choose him later on, but we'll have to wait and see. Jay, I might be pushing it a bit, but my number one overall pick in terms of one season wonders, I'll call him contract year Hassan Whiteside.
Okay.
It's good. I consider him a one season wonder because he jumped onto the scene, realized that he realized, you know what? My role here in the Miami Heat, even I think this is the year that Dwayne Wade got hurt or something, or wasn't a part of the team. He completely went off, got his big bag, put up stats for no like he put up meaningless stats for years, but then the minute he is back in the contract year, absolutely went off once again. I think that Hassan Whiteside, I consider him a 1 year wonder just because his impact could really be put onto 2 seasons, which is the second Miami Heat season where he led the league in blocks, and then the 27-28 season. Sorry, the 2017 and 2018 season. Those are the only 2 years I feel like he was there. And then after he was a starting center, but he just did not like carve out his role. He got beat out by rookie Bam Adebayo early on and it led into his Miami Heat tenure as well. He never really had like an impactful center minutes, in my opinion, in terms of, and like only in those like 2 contract years. So I'm gonna say contract year Hassan Whiteside for me. It's kind of like fits that one season wonder build. Okay, my next pick though, that one's a bit borderline, but this one for sure. And this is like one of the first years I started watching basketball. What do you know about Mike James?
Okay.
What do you know about Mike James? So I remember watching Mike James one of my first years when I was 5 years old as a Toronto Raptors. He was actually the point guard for the first ever basketball game I've watched. I did not know until like maybe 10 years after that he averaged 20 points per game that year, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds per game. I mean, like his second highest points per game before that was 12. He never reached those heights ever again in his career. 20 and 4 that 1 year. The Raptors were absolutely garbage. They're like bottom of the league because that's the year that freaking Vince Carter requested his trade. But he put up numbers, man. He put up damn good numbers, and he ended up getting like a decent contract from Minnesota afterwards. So I'm gonna go Mike James as my point guard.
That's a sneaky one. If you know, you know. Okay, so I got 2 picks back to back. I think the first one I'm gonna get somebody at the wing. I'm gonna go with Larry Hughes.
Ooh,
when he played with Washington in 04-05. That was like the Gilbert Arenas time frame.
Yeah.
And in 04-05, he averaged 22, almost 6.5 rebounds, almost 5 assists, and nearly 3 steals a game. This was one of the more explosive offenses in the league, and they were one of those teams that kind of like, I think offensively, they were just one of the more exciting young squads to watch in the NBA. I'm gonna go with Larry Hughes at the wings position first, and then an underrated bright spot in Clippers history. Give me Chris Kaman. as
Ooh, I
the
like that
other
one.
guy. 2009, 2010, he had one of the ugliest jump shots in 2K that somehow was
Yeah.
automatic. And that year he averaged 18 and a half points, nearly 10 rebounds a game, and just over a block a game. Um, Never really was like that great after that.
Yeah.
But I mean, for a Clippers team that really wasn't doing much around, up until what, probably like 2011, 2012. Chris
Yeah.
Kaman was probably the only thing up and kicking, that year. I think Chris Kaman was probably the
Yeah.
most exciting, despite being super slow, exciting player to watch for them that season, probably.
Yeah. I like that pick. I definitely do like that one. All right. You got your center as well. Okay, so I got my center. I got one of my guards. I'm gonna go with a guy who kind of follows the Michael Carter Williams sort of trajectory. Great rookie season, but slowly but surely started to fade out the league after that. Give me Tyreek Evans, man. Tyreek Evans. I feel like alongside Michael Carter Williams is one of the poster childs for kind of one season wonders. This guy is one of the very few NBA rookies to average 20 points per game in their rookie season. He was fantastic. Everyone thought he was going to be, the Kings point guard going forward. And this is during the time where the Kings, you know, were in that rut. They like it wasn't until last year they made it to the playoffs, but before that they missed the playoffs for like 20 years straight. So it felt like, Tyreek Evans and Dwight and DeMarcus Cousins were going to take them out of that. They were going to finally bring the Kings back to relevancy. But then the Kings moved into shooting guard, and that messed up his whole trajectory. The minute they moved to shooting guard, that messed up everything. He flipped to a couple teams. He was solid, for the Pelicans a little bit. Had some time with the Memphis Grizzlies where, if you remember, if you were playing fantasy basketball that year with the Memphis Grizzlies, you knew how much of a dog he was for like 2 weeks. So, he had his moments here and there, but nothing could replicate that rookie season for Tyreek Evans, where he looked like he was legitimately one of the best up-and-coming point guards. So give me him to play shooting guard or small forward. We'll have to wait and see. But for my other pick, I'm going to go with someone of recent memory. I would even call this guy a one-season wonder, even though he's still playing right now. Give me Josh Richardson.
Oh man.
Josh Richardson for me. If you remember, this guy was headlined to be traded from the Miami Heat to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for Jimmy Butler. And people were saying that, oh, this is great. They're going to be fine. Josh Richardson, 2018, 2019, averaged like 17 points a game, one of the best perimeter defenders. This guy's going to fit right in with the 76ers. No, him and Al Horford were brought in that year. They weren't great. And the 76ers that year got bounced in the first round. Ever since he left Miami the first time around, he wasn't able to replicate the kind of the same sort of productivity that he had during then. He's back with the Heat now. Hopefully, he can provide a good role for them. But man, there was that like one season where Josh Richardson was considered as highly one of the best 3-and-D guys and potentially a borderline all-star.
Man, Josh Richardson was one of those guys too. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I think the last two guys I'm gonna go for is definitely one of the poster childs for this kind of draft. I'm gonna get Jeremy Lin, 2011 Jeremy Lin, 2011, 2012 Jeremy Lin, and put him at the 2. And then I still need like either a 3 or a 4, depending on how we mess with Larry Hughes. So I think the other guy I want to go with is gonna be give me Darius Miles, man. Give me Darius Miles.
That's a name. You got two former Cavs there, and Darius Miles and Larry Hughes. Yeah. That's a damn good pick. That's a damn good pickup. I mean, he had a couple good years, but he fell out the league like really, really quick as well.
Yeah, that might not have been my greatest one. I'll be honest. I was looking at Justice Winslow because there was that year where he just kind of went insane as point guard Justice Winslow with the Miami Heat, but I don't feel like he had a good enough sample size. And I don't know, the wing position is kind of weird, man. A lot of those outlier years, if you look at them, it's either big men who kind of snap, or it's point guards who were just given the keys and went into full auto. So
100%. Yeah, in between was definitely kind of tough. But yeah, Darius Miles, not a bad player to choose there. There's a lot of ways I could go with this, but I'm going to draft a power forward here. I'm going to go super big with mine.
Okay.
Kind of the same, I don't know, one-time All-Star here, but he was also a starting center for 2 championship teams in 2000s. Give me Andrew Bynum.
Dang, that's a good one. Yeah.
Give me Andrew Bynum. They were like that year where he made the All-Star team in 2012. He averaged like 19 and 12. Like he was like legitimately. I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, the center position like back in the day was kind of I mean, it's kind of tough. Was like
Right.
we talked about it on the podcast before. We had DeAndre Ayton as sorry, not DeAndre Ayton, DeAndre Jordan as an All-NBA first-team center. That kind of tells you a lot about like the center position in the 2010s. But he was fantastic. He was the main piece that was supposed to be in the Dwight Howard trade to go to Philly. He was supposed to lead them into the future. You know what happened? He dropped a bowling ball on his freaking foot and he ruined his career. That's what happened to Andrew Bynum. But before that, he was a fantastic goal post presence. He, like I said, he was a starting center for 2 Lakers championship teams beside Pau Gasol. That was considered one of the best front courts in basketball at that time. Finally popped off in 2012, and they could have kept him. But no, the Lakers, they decided to go after old man Steve Nash, old man Metta World Peace, and Dwight Howard, and that team was an absolute disaster. And then Andrew Bynum's career after that also was an absolute disaster. So besides that 1 year, I would say of him being like a true like all-star performer, I would just still consider him a 1 year wonder, even though he was a starting center for those teams. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Andrew Bynum as my power forward.
That was sneaky. That was a sneaky good one.
All right, Jay. We got our starting fives. Who do you guys your starting center for 1 year wonders?
All right, so my 1 year wonder starting five is going to be Michael Carter Williams at the 1, Jeremy Lin at the 2, Darius Miles at the 3, Larry Hughes at the 4, and then Chris Kaman at the 5.
Very, very nice. At the point guard for me, I'm going to go with Mike James. At the 2 guard, give me Tyreek Evans. At the 3, give me Josh Richardson. At the 4, Andrew Bynum. And at the 5, Mr. Hassan Whiteside, Mr. Contract Year Whiteside. He's going to be there at my 5. Let us know down below what other players you would include in this draft. It's again, this is not really objectively speaking. It's a very subjective type of topic. So, are there any other guys that you want to mention? Let us know down below. Jay, we have reached the final segment of the show, and of course, that means the NBA quiz. And as talking about, some of the rookies in today's episode, we talked about a little bit about Wemby. We talked a lot about Derek Lively as a top rookie this year. I had to go back into the vault to see who were rookies that complete popped off in their first year. So Jay, there are only 10 rookies in NBA history to average over 20 points per game in their first season. Since the 1999-2000 season. I need you to name me all 10 of those rookies to fit in that list.
This is since when?
1999-2000. So that's
1999-2000. Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Rookies average 20 plus points per game. No, by the way, no game limit. I'll mention that.
No game limit. Okay, cool. That's a good one to know.
Yeah.
Tyreek Evans.
That's honestly the draft also helped me kind of influence the list. But yeah, Tyreek Evans did in 09-010.
Cool. Luka
18-19. He's the second most recent.
LeBron
in 03-04.
The minute you said no game requirement, I'm trying to think of guys who might have been injured who played really well.
Yes.
What's that Joel
Embiid, 32 games played that year, but he still averaged over 20 a game, 16-17.
Somehow was second rookie of the year combo that year.
It was him or Brogdon, bro. It was either him or Brogdon that year.
Jesus. What's that Blake?
Blake Griffin in 2010-2011.
I already said Braun, right?
You said Braun.
So what about Melo?
Melo as well.
Got you because
he had more points than LeBron that year, 21-something points per game.
Crazy.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Let's see, you're missing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 people left.
So what's that Supersonics KD?
Yeah, Supersonics KD 07-08 averaged 20.3 points per game. So you're missing 2 guys post 2010, and then the earliest one, the one who did it in the 1999-2000 season.
So that would be that's okay. So that's got to be Timmy. That's Timmy.
Not Timmy. That's the year before. That's the cutoff. Timmy was.
Oh dang! Right. That's probably the year right before.
Yeah, that was the year right before. So that's the cutoff. This guy, surprisingly enough, had an appear like his name was on the pod, was said on the podcast, I think last week. In terms of the draft, if that helps you, if anything.
Oh, shout out Elton Brand.
Elton Brand,
Yeah, come on, man. I listened back to the pods. Come on, man.
20 and 10 in his rookie season. This guy was an absolute
Okay.
baller. They're
Oh
missing
man.
two guys post 2010.
Post 2010. Who gets buckets? Golly, that sounds stupid, but it's like, who gets buckets? Did Kyrie average over 20?
No, he did not. No, I think he averaged like 18 or something.
Wow,
Actually,
that's
to make it a
that's
bit
impressive.
easier for you, post 2015 there were two guys. These two guys were actually post like 2015,
Oh shoot. Okay,
and,
cool.
and the no game limit still stands.
Okay. Um. Oh, so like, so that's probably like Zion then.
It was Zion. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's crazy. 24 games played, 27 minutes per game, 22-6 on the season.
Jeez.
This is what we're talking about, man. If he's on the court, this Pelicans team can go places. He just has to stay on the
Right.
court. Yeah. And you're missing one more guy.
Who gets buckets, bro? Like I'm trying to like we it's a lot of buckets, but like
A
rookie
lot of
year buckets.
No, this this guy had an amazing rookie season, and like you could say that he like led his team to like the playoffs his first year. I think he made it to the playoffs his first year. Yeah, he did.
West or East? When he was drafted.
When he was drafted, the West.
Okay, I was gonna say because I'm not sure if they might be the same team or not, so I don't want to cheat. But if it's
Yeah,
when he was drafted, at least that's like okay, that's his rookie year.
yeah. This guy was like, this guy jumped onto the scene like right away. Like I wasn't
that moment when I almost said Dion Waiters, and I'm like, no. He was just one of my favorites from that draft class because I remember him and Kyrie Irving went back to back against each other. I think it was him and Kyrie, right?
Yeah,
No, it was him and Tim Hardaway.
Tim Hardaway at the rookie challenge.
That's what it was. The rookie challenge. That's what it was. That's when he became one of my favorite players. But he was a part of that same Syracuse team, and it was like the dude with his last name was Christmas and all that. Man, anyway.
Oh, so after Christmas.
Yeah. See, come on, man. You know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, buckets. Well, is this like this is Donovan Mitchell with Gordon Hayward still on the team, I think.
Yes, it was Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he averaged 20 points per game. Bro, this guy averaged 20 and like I think like did he overlap with Gordon Hayward?
I think Gordon Hayward got traded like the next year. I could be tweaking, or maybe he got traded that offseason. It was one of the two, but it was like dang near back to back.
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna double check if he actually overlapped because I swear like he got drafted like right. Yeah, he got drafted the year Gordon left, so that was his team like right away.
Yeah, okay, so they gave him the keys right away. I was gonna say I remember it was either a bang bang play or it was like they might have played together a little bit. So okay, they didn't play together at all. They literally just traded keys.
they literally just traded keys, and he made it to the playoffs surprisingly. That's why I think I don't think Donovan Mitchell's missed a year like his like every single year he's made the playoffs on any team, which is crazy. But yeah, Donovan Mitchell, 17-18, that another one of those rookie of the year races. Him versus Ben Simmons. That was a time there, bro.
Whew.
That was a time. Yeah, but yeah, that's another that's another quiz in the books. Let us know down below if you have any other quiz ideas. If you have any draft ideas, we will take all of those suggestions down below. Jay, we've reached another end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. What do you have to say to these beautiful people before we head out?
Man, we're here, man. NBA season is in full lock. The ideas are flowing. We got some interesting stuff for you. We got mad trades this NBA season. If this isn't a sign that the 2023-24 year is going to be one of the best years to watch basketball, I don't know what is. We got mad all-stars on the move. Got the play-in tournament locked in. We got the in-season tournament starting, I think, later this month? Literally tomorrow. Yeah, for some teams. So I mean, hey, like it's a lot to look forward to. I'm really interested in a lot of what's going on with the NBA, and that's gonna make this podcast even more fun, bro. Because the NBA is on full tilt right now.
100%, and there's gonna be a lot to talk about as we go on these next few weeks. And starting next week, 2 episodes we're going to be recording for you guys. So, we're going to talk about even more stuff, and we're going to have some even more fantastic podcast ideas. So you're going to want to tune into that. So if you want to tune into all of that, make sure you watch the YouTube, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and listen on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Leave a review. And if you want to see the daily NBA content, if you can't get enough of us, the TikTok and Instagrams are popping off. We got series over there. We got clips. We're going to be posting there every day, so you don't want to miss any of that. And, of course, you don't want to miss any of our individual stuff. We have the Picks Challenge going on. Again, don't want to talk about that. Let's move on real quick. And then we're going to – and of course, we're going to get some other content. I'm going to be talking a lot of Raptors. You're going to see my vlogs as well for any NBA games we go to. And, man, there's just a lot of content coming out from our side, so you don't want to miss any of that. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. This is TV. That's Jay signing out. Peace.